It is April 9th, 2025, and this is a public meeting of the Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing, Policy and Reform Subcommittee meeting, and we're going to pass it over to Tia to get us started.
Great. Thank you all for attending the Policy and Reforms PCCEP Policy and Reform Subcommittee tonight. We appreciate your time, and let's go ahead and start with introductions. My name is Tia Palafox, and I'm the co-chair of this Policy and Reform Subcommittee. My pronouns are she, her, and I'll pass it on to Kip.
Oh, hi, Kip Silverman, he, him pronouns, the other co-chair of Policy and Reform Subcommittee. Thanks for folks that are here and will be showing up or listening later. I'll pass it on to Odelia.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Odelia Zuckerman. I use she, her pronouns. I'm one of the co-chairs of the full committee. And I'll pass it to Conrad.
Hello, sorry. Still at work. Conrad Hewlin, in pronouns. And sorry, I'm still getting caught up. So can I pass it off to the next person?
Sure. So I'll go through and see who else I see from PCCEP first. I'm scrolling through the names, and does anyone see any other PCCEP members, or should we move it?
I think that's it for now. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and have the city folk and city staff introduce yourselves, please.
I can go first. Sorry, Dory. It took a while. Elizabeth Perez, she, her pronouns. Enterprise Services Director. Good to see you all.
Thank you for coming.
I'll be off camera for a little bit because I just got home.
Okay. Any other city staff?
I'm Dory Grabinski, PCCEP Program Manager. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I'll jump in. Stephanie Howard, she, her pronouns. I'm the Public Safety Service Area Director of Community Safety. Good to see you. And I'm off camera because I'm driving. Sorry.
Drive safely.
Be careful, yes. Thank you. And any independent monitor would like to introduce themselves?
Hi, Tia. Hey, everyone. Chet Amidas, he, him, associate monitor with the independent monitoring team. And just want to say it was great to see many of you in person this week. I'm just getting back into LA, but had a great time, and it was great to see some of you in person. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. And it looks like there's quite a few people from the community. Thank you so much for attending, and please list your names, and so we can keep track of who's coming to our meetings and continue our outreach. Thank you for being here.
And there's Antoinette as well, if you want to say hello, Antoinette.
Oh, Antoinette, would you like to introduce yourself?
Antoinette Edwards, independent monitoring team member, she, her, and as with Che, it was really personal to see you all. Thank you. I look forward to all that we get to do together.
Thank you so much.
And Afrida Davis here. I'm facilitator.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the introductions, and I will go ahead and read the community agreements to keep things flowing. Our community agreements, every meeting is listen actively and respectfully, share airtime, be present and open to new information and perspectives, assume positive intent, respect each other, respect the group, speak your own truth, communicate directly, honestly, and respectfully, ask questions to clarify, call out bias, be okay with ambiguity. The overview of today's meeting will be starting with the updates, discussion on Portland Police Bureau technology policies, and Portland Police Bureau directives that are up for review, which we'll continue to bring up at each of our policy subcommittee meetings, and then open it up at the end for open public comment. I just wanted to give a little debrief about Alien Boy, which is a documentary that was filmed here in Portland. PCCEP provided a free showing just on the other day, a couple days ago. Sorry, I didn't write down that. Was that April 6th that we showed, or April 7th?
April 7th. Yep.
Yes, thank you, sorry. We, PCCEP showed a pre-showing of Alien Boy on April 7th. And this was that's a story of the life and death of James Chassie, who had been diagnosed with schizophrenia. The police shot and killed him and labeled him as transient drug user. And it was, for me, a very frustrating film to watch, but very important to see the reality of it. It happened in 2006. The film also touched on the Department of Justice being reached out to look into the use of force at that time and found excessive use of force. And at that point, the city was sued and a settlement agreement was developed in 2012, then with PCCEP being developed. So a lot of it, the film showed the life and death of James Chassie, but a little bit of how the settlement agreement and PCCEP came about. And this was a film made by Mental Health Association and is used for training purposes. Sorry, I'm looking at a few different papers. On April 30th, we're going to discuss the film in our full subcommittee meeting so that we can get a discussion going for the people who attended, hear what their thoughts were and what are their ideas to move forward with this film. At the filming, we also put up a code for people to scan and give us information on who they would like to see at that meeting, at the full board committee meeting, to have a full discussion around it. Sorry, I didn't have a slide up to go through any more details, but I just want to mention we saw the film. It was very heavy, and a little bit about it, and we'll be discussing it more at the full board meeting on April 30th. Thank you. Yep, do you want to move forward with this part?
Kip stepped away for a moment.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
can keep going. I thought he was taking over after the Alien Boy update. I'll go ahead and jump in. Also, the 2024 Portland Police Bureau draft annual report is available for review on the Portland Police Bureau and the PCCEP website. So we can all read through it and make comments for the next 30 days. Comments may be incorporated into the final report. And then PCCEP has invited Chief Day and other Portland Police Bureau leadership to answer questions at the full committee meeting on April 30th.
Yeah, apologies for that. I had to step away just for a brief second. Great timing.
I'm just trying to get through the slides and stay on track too. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you. So, yeah, updates that we wanted to bring in this meeting. Originally, we had a different agenda set, and our guest speaker had to reschedule, and we'll figure that out as we have the opportunity to have that conversation. So tonight will mostly be updates. Like Tia had mentioned, the annual report is out, the draft. There are, I believe, 30 days to provide input and feedback on that. So encourage everyone to take a look at it. I have done a brief run through on it, and there's a lot. I think it's 26 pages. So please take time to take a look at that. Also, this is, and I haven't had a chance to see today's news, but it sounds like I know earlier in the week or last week, Mayor Wilson had asked for the city to withdraw the appeal for the Townsend settlement. And am I to understand that that appeal was revoked, or is that still under consideration? Can anybody answer that, or are we still, is that still not final?
I can, okay, go ahead, Stephanie.
Yeah, I'm happy just to jump in. No, that is a final decision. So
Okay,
yeah, so that is moving forward, and the Community and Public Safety Committee acknowledged that yesterday, and after consulting with the family members, withdrew the council resolution that they were bringing forward. So I don't know if the actual filing with the court withdrawing the appeal is done yet, but the direction has been given and is final.
okay, cool. Thank you, Stephanie, for clarifying. Okay, I want to be as crisp with our language as possible. So, okay, cool. Next slide. Any questions about that? I think that's pretty straightforward. Okay, yeah, let's go to the next slide, please. So the original conversation or agenda that we had for tonight was to have one of the attorneys that worked on the lawsuit against the city of Portland that settled with journalists and legal observers from 2020 protests. Thule was not able to make it tonight. We're hoping to have him come at a future meeting to talk again about what the lawsuit was about, talk about some of the nuances and details of it, and to have hopefully a conversation about what possible policy or directive changes might come from it. The understanding, first of all, I think it was a substantial settlement of almost $940,000, as you can see here. In the original conversation around it was that out of the settlement that there would be some directive changes around policing, but that there was conversation about there being changes already being put in motion from the state, and that the Portland Police Bureau would also be reviewing and updating as needed. I'm curious if anybody can speak to it tonight. If not, let's just table it. I'm still curious about the deadline of December 31st, 2028, and what clearer protections means if it's not actual directive or policy work that needs to happen there. And the reason for asking is for us to understand if there is something that we can help with from the community side on crafting that as well. So does anybody have a way to clarify that a little bit? And if not, we can table it for a future meeting. I believe that means we're going to table it. So, okay. So yeah, any questions on the settlement? And I forget the title of it, but no. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And some things that we would like to pursue and discuss to see if there is more work for this subcommittee to talk about in the future. We have a couple things that we want to talk about tonight and get input from everyone on the call, of course, and committee members. Is that according to city staff, the city has paid out more than $4.5 million in the past 5 years to settle civic claims linked to Portland police. A lot of that stemming, as you're probably aware, from the 2020 protests. We will want to possibly take a look at the different cases, how they apply to the original DOJ versus City of Portland, kind of contrast it with the progress that has been made over the years and also the remaining articles that our independent monitor folks are helping monitor and review. And also what kind of impact these lawsuits have on the city finances, and how we relate that to the ongoing director review and policy review and intentions. It's complex. I think a lot of what we do here is very complex, but there are quite a few lawsuits, and it's a substantial amount of money. And we've talked about this over the year and a half plus that I've been here as part of the PCCEP committee. PCCEP committee is kind of redundant, but part of this effort. And from a policy and reform standpoint, we do want to have discussion about how we can, and if we should be pursuing this as a line of discussion, and what further recommendations can come from it. I'll stop there for thoughts, questions, input. Also, I got to yell at my cat. He's trying to knock things over. My apologies.
Oops.
Any thoughts or input?
I have thoughts.
Yeah, please share your thoughts, Odelia.
Yeah, I think this is definitely a really important thing to bring up, and yeah, it's like super horrible, I would say, that the number is this high, but also like thinking more about the nature of settlement agreements and what it means to settle, as opposed to like taking responsibility for something, is like another aspect of this too, just for us to think about. But yeah, I definitely feel like this has been like a consistent news source in my time here, that like there's been a settlement reached, and it's something's got to change. But yeah, I don't have like very substantive ideas about that though.
Okay. Yeah, no, thanks, Odelia. It's been brought up multiple times by folks that have been attending the committees. We do frequent updates on various settlement agreements. So there is definitely a through line between why we're here in the first place, and I think getting to the end state of the DOJ versus City of Portland settlement. And as Chief Day has said, PPB being a learning organization, I think there's always more that can be done. So we'll add that to a future agenda discussion as well. We can maybe talk with the community engagement to get more feedback and input on direction, and maybe we can discuss that as part of the steering agenda when those meetings are scheduled. Any other thoughts, input on that for now? Okay, cool. I like just chugging right along. It's been a long day. Um, okay, next slide, please, if you would. Okay. We did want to talk about, also, this is another discussion point. Uh, PCCEP has been involved in multiple discussions about use of technology and what from a community what we should be looking at or what we should not be doing prior to me joining PCCEP, so I don't have the direct knowledge of it. We provided a fair amount of input and discussion around body-worn cameras, and also through community feedback in town halls, we had I guess, a very intense discussion about the shot spotter technology. It's really hard to say. And the city decided not to go forward with that. So there's, as we know, everything is continually evolving. There's been some concerns raised over the last few years about use of different types of technology as far as surveillance goes, as far as assisting the police getting their work done. And it seems that there's an accelerated pace of this. And I believe it was last week, there was a bill entered, or I don't know the state of it. Again, I apologize that I hadn't had time to get deeper into things, but on enhanced use of drones to help with policing. I am curious if anybody who has knowledge of it can give, or deeper knowledge can get into some of the PCCEP input and discussion we had around body-worn cameras and or the shot spotter technology before we talk further into some of the other aspects that we could be discussing.
Sorry, what's your question, Kip?
Our involvement on previous technology decisions, such as shot spotter and input on body-worn cameras, which are the two that I'm familiar with, but was not directly involved in. So, and if nobody is here to add more details to that, my understanding was that we did hold multiple conversations around body-worn cameras, how they should be used. And again, the shot spotter pilot and work that was done going into that, the community and the town hall that we helped facilitate, as well as other testimony given to city council, that the city decided not to go forward with that technology. So there's previous history of us being able to hold fruitful conversations, talk about difficult things, and help come to better solutions based on the input of our community here, using the word community a lot. But some of the things that have come up over the last several years, the use of the police airplanes for surveillance of protests. There, I think, are still some outstanding investigations into some of that from 2020. The body-worn camera, there was some feedback we received from, I believe, Cop Watch recently on body-worn camera policy and potential updates to that. There is the drone conversation. Thank you, Odelia, for linking things there. And Odelia, I see your hands up.
Yeah, I was just gonna share the stuff I was sharing. The
Yeah.
first link I sent is about the bill that would allow, so I believe it passed through the Oregon Senate. So it's still alive and we'll see what happens with it. That would allow police all over Oregon to use drones to respond to 911 calls and chase suspects. And I don't know what that would mean for Portland police specifically, just because it's allowing it. I don't know what practices they would take, or but like it's definitely something that sounds concerning to me. Then I also, the second link I shared is the auditor's report around PPB surveillance that was in 2022. And so the auditor years ago now has found that like the PPB, there needs to be more like guidelines and regulations around surveillance. It's kind of hard to, because surveillance technology is new and developing, like there needs to be things to keep that in check, which don't necessarily exist right now. Then the last thing I wanted to share, which I thought was very interesting, is the PMO thing, the Portland Camera Registry at the Public Environment Management Office. And that basically allows any businesses in Portland to like register their cameras with this registry so that people at the city could see surveillance footage, which could include the police, even though it's not a police like thing specifically. Oh yeah, Stephanie, do you have?
Yeah, I can just jump in really quickly. It doesn't give direct access to anybody's surveillance video, just to be clear. So what it does is it allows people to volunteer to say, hey, I have a security camera. And if an incident happens and there's investigation that's needed in the area, then police have a point of contact they can go to directly to request or obtain with a warrant their footage. So it's not a direct access situation.
Yeah, and but they wouldn't need a warrant, right?
Well, it would depend. It just identifies where it is. People can withdraw their consent to provide video at any time that they want to. So if people were on that, if they registered, they can always take themselves off the list. Or police don't have a way without the voluntary nature of it to access anyone's security footage. So even if they're on the registry, all it does is let PPB know, hey, this person has told us that they have security camera footage, and then they can contact that person to request access to the whatever the footage is that is relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for explaining that. Yeah, and on top of that, I've also heard from community members who like that PPB has knocked on their door before and asked to just like if they want to share their like Ring camera or whatever footage with them. So that's like another thing tied to this. I just talked for a long time, so I don't know if anyone else has thoughts.
No, I think, oh, Stephanie, is your hand still up or was
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. I was just going to
No.
go back to the earlier piece on the legislation related to the use of drones. And I just got home, so I'll give me a minute. I'm not driving anymore, just so anybody knows I'm not being dangerous out there.
Good.
I'm going to jump on my computer and I'll log in because PPP's drone policy is on their website. They all of their policies around use of that are there. I just want to make sure that's accessible to you all as you consider anything that you want to do in relation to that legislation.
Yeah, thank you for that, Stephanie, because I did have a question on that, in that, and please, again, city folks, Stephanie, you probably know, if correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the privacy policy around the drone footage is actually, I think I read that it was owned by Bureau of Planning Sustainability, or what it used to be, BPS. And I'm curious about how we meld that into public safety if that is the case.
Yeah, so the drone use is a great example. There is Portland, I think it was through BPS, but it's called Smart Cities, and it's the city of Portland's unit that is focused on privacy, on evaluating technology in any bureau that within the city that is purchasing technology that may have the ability to conduct surveillance or different things. And so what you'll see here, I'll share it as soon as I can, is that the PBB team worked with that team. There's evaluations about the risks of that. That was all done in advance of adoption of that.
Okay.
And so all of those steps have been done by that team within the city to ensure that that they are reporting out on any concerns that they would have or recommendations they have on the privacy implications.
Okay, yeah, thank you for clarifying, because the relationship was not entirely clear to me from trying to read through everything. So that's super helpful. Yeah, and anything you can share about that so I can learn more would be great, so that we can learn more. Hopefully other people want to learn too.
I have a question
Yeah.
based on that question. So when there are these new initiatives, such as, let's say this camera registry, for example, the voluntary camera registry, when there are interactions inevitably with PPB, or for like, programs are not necessarily housed in PPB, but will result likely in interactions with the Bureau or with officers, would that eventually result in a directive being created? So there is PPB policy that dictates how they interact with those programs or that type of technology?
It depends. Usually not for something like that. If it's not a program that's managed by PPB, typically there might just be a training bulletin that says, hey, here, just so you know, this is a tool that came online. People voluntarily, offer this, and this is, how you can find the information. But for something like that, there's not a lot of like extensive training or policy development that's needed for that. It's more of an awareness thing. So I doubt it. I don't think there's any policy for that program in particular.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
I have another question, Stephanie, if you could answer it too about this. I was just curious, and you might not know, but like kind of about the origins of where this came about, because for me, this feels like very directly tied to the police, and I guess I'm just curious why it isn't then a part of like PPB, or why it's separate, and how those, like, was the PPB a part of the creation of it?
So my understanding is, so the Public Environment Management Office, PEMO, has been operating for a couple of years now. They have bi-weekly meetings with different communities throughout the city, where the goal of their work is, here are the problems that we are seeing, community reporting to city. And PEMO then is kind of the coordinator of the various city entities needed to address that. And so it's kind of, they call them problem solver meetings. So these problem solver meetings, and I'll drop their website in the chat, which may also be helpful. But those problem solver meetings have resulted in lots of community input and feedback and requests. And they run the gamut. Sometimes, a lot of times it's safety related or police related, but a lot of times it's also like, PBOT isn't cleaning my street often enough, or there's human waste outside of my business and I need someone to come and clean it. And so it can run the full gamut. There's not a limit on the kinds of things that they tackle. It's all over the place. So my understanding is that this idea came from those problem solver meetings where community members were saying, how do we share information? How do we get it to people? And so the PEMO team, they work closely with a bunch of bureaus at the city. So PBOT, water, police, fire, they're working with everyone. And so they are kind of the clearinghouse for a lot of these kinds of solution oriented shortcut types of things that the city is trying to do in order to meet the requests of various communities. So it varies by problem solver meeting, but that's where this idea came from, and that's the team that put this together.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. And this is why we think this would be a good topic for this subcommittee to pursue, is that everything's accelerating technology-wise, obviously, and there are different inputs that I think would be better understood. And as the auditors report that Odelia shared, the better, the more clarity and the better everybody can understand, and the transparency around everything, the more trust in the processes can be had. And I think that's really critical. So part of that, the drone aspects of it as well. If there's going to be expanded possible use of drones permitted from a state level, how that could impact Portland police policies, and be able to pursue that in a thoughtful way, as well as some of the other newer technologies coming out as well. We've had conversations about facial recognition, cell phone tracking, so on and so forth. So I feel like there's a convergence of conversation that needs to happen, and a clarity around what all the different policies are. And really appreciate Chief Day attending our previous meeting and talking about even perception of surveillance, like with the police officer showing up at town hall meetings, and how we can all do better about communicating what's happening and why.
Okay, so as far as bringing up this topic in the subcommittee, because I know various members on PCCEP and in the subcommittee are interested in some of these topics. A suggestion might be to either pick one that's of interest and do a little exploration, or possibly, as both Odelia and Kip have mentioned, look at that auditor's report again, which PCCEP did discuss last year briefly. Take a look at that and see where that leads you as a subcommittee.
Yeah.
If
And
you're interested in working on this.
I think that makes sense, and also understanding what where things have changed since that came out and was last discussed. Also with the new representation, the new permanent chief of police, and also the reorganization of the Public Safety Division or Bureau. I'm still not sure of the name, I apologize, to figure out how all the new inputs come into the conversation. So I think I think we need to understand more about all the moving pieces and what changes.
I agree. I would, yeah, definitely be interested in pursuing this more.
Okay. So let's add that to one of the discussions to have when we do the full committee conversation and steering conversations. Does that make sense? I think that's how the process works. Or
We can talk about that later. Yeah.
okay. All right, cool. All right, thank you. Can we bring the presentation back up? Okay, so what we will be doing as part of this subcommittee going forward, we're going to have some repeatable. We're going to have some standard processes that we bring up for each meeting. The update section, like we just had, items that we want to discuss and pursue. Generally, we will have one primary topic to get deeper into, like we had originally planned for this one, but also to talk about the current directives that are up for review, and give an opportunity to talk about how to get involved if you want to provide input to the Portland Police, or again from the community, if there's a topic that you all feel like our subcommittee should be looking at through the review process. So yeah, if we can go to the next slide. And there are 3 steps to the review process. Portland Police, I believe, every 3 years will revisit a previous directive that has been published and decided on, and bring it back around for conversation. So they have a first universal review, which just means here's the policy that's available to discuss. They have a period of time that they will accept input on the first round of review based on input that is taken. They will possibly change some of the language or policy and put it up for a second round of review. Have a period of time to provide input on it, and then have a final process to it where it gets recodified into the directive language. PCCEP also has the ability to look at any of the existing directives and provide input or recommendation on updating something if, again, the committee feels like there's an urgency to it out of band or life cycle of the standard review process. So if there are things that we feel need to be addressed, we can put it through a recommendation process and make a recommendation to the mayor and the police bureau if need be. So you can go out and subscribe. Thank you for all the links, Tia. You can subscribe to the email list so that as these come up for first and second review, you can get a notification on it and participate in it. And again, each of the directive reviews, once you open up the PDF, you have the opportunity to click and provide feedback directly to the Portland Police Bureau. Or again, if you feel you'd like to have utilize our subcommittee, which is why we're here, to facilitate conversation, ask us to talk about something, and we can bring it up potentially as one of our topics of discussion in this subcommittee. So since these are all up for just the first universal review, there's not a lot to talk about in each of them, other than if somebody has a very specific interest, please go read through it. And if you have questions or input on it, please use the mechanisms that currently exist to have conversations around it. I did notice as reading through them, the Police Review Board, the current statute directive talks about the IPR. I'm assuming that the language for that would be updated to reflect the new police accountability mechanisms. But I don't know that they, I'm not sure how all that gets plugged into it from the PPB side, if anybody can speak to that.
Kip, I am going to, we've just learned some really, really devastating news that's been confirmed by the media, so we feel it's appropriate to share it now.
Okay, I was, you know,
I feel like I'm too emotional to share it, actually, if somebody else wants to.
I can.
It's sad. Our dear friend, activist, brother, inspector, all of the wonderful things about Dan Handelman we can share in his passing. And so appreciative of what he brought to this process. And I just want to open it up for that. I want to thank you, Dory, because this is the work that we do. This is the work that we do.
yeah. Yeah, I just shared the link from the Oregonian also. So, oh, there it is. It's in the chat.
Oh. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I think absolutely a moment of silence and respect is in order. So let's take a moment. Yeah. Yeah, I had just gotten a couple messages and asking what had happened. I'm like, I don't know, but yeah, I guess that I've known Dan a pretty long time, as I think most of you have, and he is one of the most interesting people I've ever met in my life. The wealth of knowledge, the uh, dogged pursuit of clarity and better outcomes and everything else. The impact that he's had on the city is unmatchable. So yeah, that's pretty awful news.
Yeah. I heard that he had a stroke and didn't wake up from it.
Mm.
So
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. When Dory, I think when we learn more about any services, memorial, or anything else, maybe we can put a note out on the PCCEP social media. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think as many of you know, Dan was a very private person, so we will share what if there is something public,
There is something,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's we all in this space know the profound impact Dan had on the community and on city employees and just about everybody. Will not be the same without him. Just yeah.
I'm so sorry.
I'm looking at the picture in Oregonian. It's a great picture.
When we saw him last night, at the other night at Alien Boy, Mark and I joked, a full head of hair, well, as full as Dan's head could get with hair. So we had a moment of laughter. And if I had just a word for his, as you said, dogged tenacity for truth and clarity, and he was committed. If I take something from him transitioning, just to honor his commitment to this work and this process, that would do him good. I wouldn't want him coming back and saying, no, you didn't get it right, Antoinette. So I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna do my best.
Yeah. I mean, I think what we have left in our agenda is pretty straightforward. So I have no objections if we want to share a few things. I will, a year, maybe a year ago, I can't remember exactly the time frame, but Dan had corrected me on a couple of things he had said in one of these meetings, and had sent me links, and I did some research, and I wrote him an email back saying, hey, thank you, I really appreciate you helping me understand this better. And his response to me was interesting. It's like, wait, you want to thank me? He had a he had a very occasionally aggressive persona on things, but also apparently a humility that I had not experienced, especially in public meetings. But yeah, I appreciate a lot of what he brought to us, and like I said, I've known him for a number of years, so even prior to PCCEP. Anybody else want to share anything? Okay. Yeah. So
I think it would be appropriate to, yeah, if anyone has any other words to share, but otherwise, I think it'd be appropriate to perhaps end early today. I think there's nothing too pressing. And I know based on chats I've been receiving, it seems like people might be a bit distracted. Oh, go ahead,
Yeah.
Barbara and Debbie.
Cop Watch is like kind of pulling ourselves together to keep going with his work. And so we'll let you know.
Cool. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you, Barbara. Go ahead, Debbie.
Hi, Debbie Iona. So I've known Dan for 25 years. We were on the Vera Katz work group together is when I first met him. And he's just such a remarkable person. I mean, he kept us all informed. He was an amazing organizer. He covered so many issues, but he had little groups of people working with him on each one, and he kept us all informed and involved. And I mean, he was just amazing when we're on the Police Accountability Commission, helping us all as a group stay cohesive and work together cooperatively. I mean, and it was, yeah, he's just I don't know. The quote from me in the newspaper is, I feel like his work was transformational, and and it was. So channeling Dan, though, I would like to make a public comment about something that because we've got to carry on with, and keep Dan in mind and not drop the ball. So going back to the agenda item you guys talked about the civil settlements. I don't know if I have the terminology right, but the settlement agreement requires, I think it was the COCL to report on those in their quarterly reports. And I know they've dropped the ball until recently when Dan reminded them that they were supposed to do it. And so they started doing it. And, but we included that, the new Civilian Board for Police Accountability is going to have, they're required in the code to have an annual report. And one of the things we included as what should be in the contents of that report was a summary of the settlements. So you see the dollar amounts and what the cases were about. Well, when the city attorney's office revised our code that we created, they took that out. So that might be something that you guys might, double check all my details, because this is just coming off the top of my head, but it might be something you might want to advocate for, is getting that added back in. I don't know when that code will be reopened or anything, but it would be something to think about, because I think that would be a really useful service to the community to see what the settlements are in a given year and what they were about, just to learn from them. So, okay, so that's all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. And that was part of the spirit and intent of bringing that up as an agenda item, that we would want to take a look at the history, or at least recent history as a whole, and kind of have that through line of how do the policies track to the outcomes, track to the settlement agreement, and what can we do to have fewer needs for any of that. So I think that's a good thing to report on. As far as changing the independent monitors reporting, I don't know that we have an avenue for any of that through this, other than being able to ask them questions when they present in their meetings, or through our meeting. But I do think it's something that the subcommittee does want to continue tracking and reporting out on, because I think it's one of the sets of milestones to, are we getting where we want to be going as a city and a community.
I just wanted to share, Dr. Haynes wrote something regarding Dan. A legacy for justice, truth, and equality is left for us. The unfinished dream needs to be fulfilled.
Oh. Thank you.
Dr. Silver.
Yes, it's very hard for me to talk right now. But I just wanted to say that there is only one Dan Handelman. He was a unique and very special individual. I know how hard it's going to be for Cop Watch to pull themselves together without him. But I want to say that even though I'm not a member of Cop Watch, I'm an advocate. And if there's anything that I can do to help you in any way, feel free to call on me. I met Dan about 16 years ago when I was on the Citizen Review Committee. Actually, I met Debbie at the same time, and Debbie and Dan sort of go together for me because they have been at every police meeting I have ever been to in my life. They were both there. And now that he will not be there, I just don't know how to process it. So I'm having to deal with my own feelings and hopefully get myself together enough to be helpful to the community around his passing. I'm also very interested, I know Mary Claire Buckley is here, and how the police will be handling this. Dan was, I think, in their minds, an adversary. That is not who I think he was, but I hope they have some kindness in their heart for his passing.
Oh, if I could respond, I think that the Police Bureau, despite the differences we might have had with Dan over the years, always respected the work. I don't think there's anybody in this city, including anybody at the Bureau, that knows more about the Bureau and its history than Dan. He has been a tireless, as they all say, but I will say, Rochelle, in the Oregonian, Chief Day has already made a comment about Dan's contribution and what a tireless advocate he was. I believe that when all is said and done, the Bureau would say that he certainly made us a better institution. He always held us, accountable and kept us, aware of all the, the issues that he raised. And so I don't think you'll find that that the Police Bureau would say anything bad about Dan. Like I said, tireless. I mean, he was always there. As you said, every meeting you went to, and always wanted, the best, not only for the city, but I think he wanted to make the Bureau a better organization. So we certainly would join with others, everybody who knew Dan, that would say that is a great loss, and he'll be greatly missed by all sides, because as I said, the Bureau needs its critics. I have always said that, and because it helps to make them a better officers and better organization. So
Thank you, Mary Claire.
Yeah.
I have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Just kind of in shock.
It's nice to hear everybody's, experience. And I'm just thinking about how, like, Dan is so singular, clearly, and we all know that, but we all really do get to know each other so well in these spaces. And that's a special thing. I remember when I was thinking about applying to this job, I watched a bunch of PCCEP meetings, and they were, let's just say and I still chose to apply. But something that I really remember from watching those old meetings was Dan really jumping off the screen at me before I ever met him. And from day one in this job, it became very clear that I was going to learn a lot from Dan Handelman, whether I liked it or not. And I really did, both about, the history of the Bureau and police reform and accountability, but also about public engagement and being in these spaces. And yeah, that's just kind of what I'm thinking about right now is, whether or not we agree, how much we really just do learn by being in community and having those relationships over time. It's very special. And I think I'm actually quite confident this is the first PCCEP meeting I have ever been in where Dan has not been here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot to process. Exactly. Yeah, the only thing I'll add to it, I think all of us who show up here all have the same intentions. We want to see better outcomes. We want to have conversation. We want to engage on difficult topics with the best of intentions. And it's not always easy. It's often or almost not ever easy. And sometimes it's intense. And that was something that one of the things of knowing Dan the years that I have was the doggedness, the be extremely knowledgeable, push hard on the things that you feel need to be pushed hard, and try to make things better. And I think that's why we're all here. So even when we don't agree, I hope there's a degree of respect and understanding, and I have felt that, otherwise I wouldn't still be here. So it's almost 10 after 7. Do we want to wrap up? Maybe is there more to share? I think the directives, I think everybody here is pretty familiar with them, so there wasn't really more to discuss there. And I think that was the end of the presentation anyway, other than, thank you, Tia, other than open commentary, which I feel like we just pretty much jumped into, unless there's anything else anybody would like to discuss. Okay, cool. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I think I'll just say, I think in the future and a more focused evening, the subcommittee will get into a better groove or find your groove with what looking at those directives looks like for you. And how you want to engage with the ones that are up for review. I think we were gonna try to attempt that tonight, but a different night will also work.
Yeah, I think diving
so
into
yeah.
each of them doesn't help or serve anything right now, so.
Yeah. But yeah, I think unless there's additional public comment, including things unrelated to the matter at hand. We'll just pause for a second. If anyone wants to share, you can raise your hand.
I'll just, my hand, just my closing thought, and I'm so grateful that Jay is here and we together last night and we saw Dan with a lot of hair. After meeting with AMAC, the monitoring team, that was the first meeting. The second was with Cop Watch. And I am eternally grateful for that. And as Mary Buckley shared so eloquently, he makes us better. He made us better, and we listened, and it was authentic, and we received it. And just this gathering this evening and that memory and that honor, when we come together through our disagreements, is to make us all better. And I think we all want the same thing. So just again, on behalf of the monitoring team, it was a rich conversation. He gave a lot of suggestions, and we really took him seriously. And we're going to make some changes in our website due to his suggestion about make it better, make it readable. So in his honor, I'm still listening to him. We're still listening to him. Thank you.
Love that. Okay, let's take a look at what's next. All right, chairs?
No, Tia, do you wanna, or I can speak to this?
I can. Our upcoming PCCEP events are coming up soon. On April 30th, we'll have our full committee meeting where we'll be discussing the alien boy, as we talked about, and the PPB draft report. So hopefully we'll see you there at the full meeting on April 30th. I really appreciate that we're able to make space for Dan tonight. That was really hard. So thank you everyone for coming tonight. And is there anything else besides April 30th? Oh, here we go. Thank you all for coming tonight. The PCCEP members who are here, the public and accessibility support, you are here today. And here's some information on how to learn more about us at the PCCEP website. And you can always give us written public comment at tinyurl.com PCCEP comment. And you can also sign up for email updates on PCCEP at tinyurl.com PCCEP updates. So please utilize those links and keep in touch with us, and we will see you on the 30th. Thank you all.
Everyone.
Thanks,
Appreciate
everybody.
you.
Recording stopped.
Take care.